effective guiding question.
Okay.
This way, you can adapt this, you can change it depending on wherever you are in your lesson. Okay, whether it's a CER or whatever, and so that their response will make them develop those science and engineering practices. Okay. So when we go through this, I just want you anything that you want to change or modify. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one is addressing the standards. Do you feel like that's something that should be important? Identifying the knowledge students need to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Identifying the skills students need to learn. Identify the big ideas.
Yep.
Address meaningful and or important topics.
Okay.
Do you feel like that's something that you address personal relevant topics?
Yeah, I think certainly when that's something we can do is to tie that together, that the kids benefit from that.
Give them something to connect to.
Mm-hmm. If it's cross-curricular, if it's just outside the classroom, I think it's meaningful.
We're going to add cross-curricular. That's good. I think when they can realize, oh, I did this in math, but I'm also doing it in science. That's good. Use the most appropriate words.
Certainly.
Keep language easy to understand.
I do.
Prompt students to use learning strategies.
Yes. Although I think sometimes you kind of have to explain that's what you're doing, because they may think they know what a learning strategy is, and we might have to kind of clarify for them what that means.
So maybe, what if you gave them a list of learning strategies?
Or just kind of weave in, one day we're using a graphic organizer, another day we're letting them kind of format an index card that they could use on a quiz or test, and I think that's helpful to them. But then I also think it's easier on them when we, call a spade, so to speak. In other words, we're explaining that that's a learning strategy and this is learning strategy.
Right.
That they don't necessarily learn how we learned, so we need to mix that.
Right. Address all learning styles. That's good. Prompt the students use technology. Do you feel like?
I don't think they need prompting, but yes, I definitely think that we could do that, but in a more directed way.
More efficiently?
Yeah. And more on task.
Yeah. And then prompt students to use communication skills.
And even appropriate there too. I think, earlier we talked about appropriate words. I certainly think they feel like they can communicate well with each other and with us, but sometimes they need some.
I think there's a huge disconnect between academic language and just, I'm talking to my buddy. Okay, so looking at this, do you think there's anything that you want to add when you're thinking about how to scaffold this in your class?
Nope. I think maybe just, chatting about how we can demo it or explain that to them, kind of describe or design an effective guiding question that they can keep coming back to that's going to be meaningful to them instead of just, I think the I can statements that we're implementing with PLC are helpful, but I also think that overarching one would be helpful too, so then they can kind of come back to that and use it like a thermometer.
I think that's one of the big ideas, so they can see kind of connecting the dots. Okay. Do you feel like this checklist would give your students a way when they answer that question, they have to use those science and engineering practices because it's not just a yes or no?
Right. I think anytime you can make an open-ended, they've got to think more about it.
Okay. So now that we've looked at our checklist, what part do you feel like you would like to see a modeling approach for? The part on actually designing the question to meet these qualifications, or the part where your students are reacting?
I think we're all pretty good with that reactionary part because we are used to going on the fly and adjusting to what they say. But I think any of us, probably even departmentally, would benefit with some of that design, making sure our design quality is where it should be.
Okay. That I can do. All right. So what I actually have, I have our standards, an example, and to kind of help you see how I did this, we're just going to go through and I'll show you how I developed an effective list. So when you're designing whatever unit you want to do, and you want to give this guided question, whether, like I said, it's at the beginning, the end, or you want to let it be a common thing. Take your standards. For example, I looked at our last unit standard on analyze and interpret specific heat data to justify the selection of material. So my example question is, how does specific heat capacity affect temperature? Okay. So when you look at this, do you feel that it addresses the standards? when you're doing that, you want to think, okay, well, specific heat, yes. And I'm not just asking them, what is it?
Right.
Okay, so they have to really kind of compare and contrast, analyze it.
Okay.
So then when you look at the second step, identify the knowledge. So what do the kids have to know? What do they need in order to kind of get that information together? Well, they're understanding what specific heat is in the first place and how it's going to relate to temperature.
And could we also, when you've done it, could we also do like the why and make sure it's meaningful to them?
Yes, absolutely.
Kind of like the food truck thing they're doing today. We could talk about
Mhm.
which containers, which materials they used in
Mhm.
cooking. Do you think that would help them tie back to that essential?
Well, that's exactly what I was about to get to. Absolutely. Hold that thought for a second. So when you get to 3, identify the skills to learn. So that's kind of the same
Okay.
process. What is specific heat capacity? So it's kind of like the interactive virtual lab that they
Mhm.
did. Where they got to see, aluminum or copper
Right,
had different
right.
specific heats. That's what it did. So then when you look at the big ideas, this is kind of like the learning map of
Okay.
heat transfer. I'm not losing it,
Right.
but how is it working,
Right.
within that? Then when you look at making it personal or making it cross-curricular,
Mhm.
you could look at, say, for example, in this question, students have to provide an example.
Mhm.
So, little Sally likes to bake and she likes to
Right.
bake a cake.
Right.
So what pan should she use
Okay.
to keep her cake hot longer, to
Right.
retain heat?
Right.
And so that's kind of going back off of that example into that. Also, you can almost look at it from, you have a restaurant and you want to cook a baked potato.
Mhm.
And so, like, if you wrap it in aluminum foil, which one is going to
Right.
lose heat, things
Right.
like that. So I think that would be, is that kind of what
Mhm.
you had in mind for cooking? And I think a lot of our kids, either they love cooking or they do it,
Right.
and it's something that they can relate to.
Well, and I think it might be interesting even to have Chef come up and address that guiding question with us, and then they could kind of see it.
Yeah.
Maybe next, when we do electricity or something,
Mm-hmm.
you were mentioning that cross-curricular piece and trying to get the big idea, and so maybe we could, talk to somebody from Dalton Utilities to come over and
Yeah.
talk about why that electricity is
great idea.
important. So,
It makes it more real. I think anytime that they can take on a professional
Mhm.
role, it makes it more authentic for them. And so then you're looking at the appropriate words. So it's really important when the students answer it, whether they're doing it just in a group discussion, or writing down, that in their rationale, they're using those words. And one thing I think that's great that we have those vocabulary and skills, and really, we're just taking the standards and we're putting it in
Right.
a little bit easier to understand concept,
Right.
which is actually on our checklist. So
Right.
that's good for that. So, and then looking at that language to understand. So when you're going through this, if you can meet those criteria, then that's going to be something
Okay.
that's really going to strengthen the kids'
Okay.
science and engineering practice. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at this question. How does specific heat affect temperature? And with your table, I want you to talk about the rationale behind this. Okay, so looking at what we talked about with what specific heat means, looking at what we talked about what temperature means and how that affects it, come up with at least 3 points, almost like a CER, 3 points to support and answer this kind of question. How does specific heat capacity affect temperature? You just talk about it.
Okay, so once you've seen it modeled, what do you think you would feel comfortable to implement? What time? Do you think maybe in a week?
I think maybe next week I'm going to be looking at next week's work, and so I think maybe next week block, so I'll try to implement some of that.
Perfect.